Well, hello there, ghouls and gals. Today we rise from our crypts, ready to take over the world for our undead overlords once more, as we once again take a look at the end times in our rewrite. So far we've managed to have the Skaven remain powerful and somewhat united without them joining Chaos, have had Archaon take Middenheim much earlier than anticipated, solved the Elven Civil War without having Malekith become Phoenix King, and given the Lizard Men their tragic send-off. A lot has been done so far, but now we're approaching our trickiest subject yet, in my opinion. That's not just because this is my second time recording this, by the way. Apologies, this video is coming out a little bit later, but I had some major technical difficulties that rendered the entirety of the last recording null. So yes, I'm back again. Nagash, and by extension the wider undead factions in the end times, often feel like they're just sort of there. Nagash is a being capable of challenging the Chaos Gods, and yet in the canon version he just sort of comes back to life and then has to join the Order tide. He doesn't feel like a villain worth paying attention to, nor is he an absolutely invaluable asset to the heroes, so let's see what we can do about that as we rewrite Nagash in the end times. We're picking things up about midway through our version of events. I'm not going to go over how Nagash is resurrected and the artifacts needed to bring him back, because even if I changed some of that stuff, it would end up with the same result of the true Lord of Necromancy being resurrected. I will remind you that it is largely Manfred who helps with this resurrection after he himself is brought back to the land of the living. Or undead, I suppose. In any case, Nagash is back. He's not at full strength, but that can be easily remedied as soon as he regains some of his former territory. To do that, he'll need allies of old. Nagash calls his Mortocks to his side, and Manfred is interestingly not counted among them. Nagash still tells the bald vampire that he's needed, and that he will share in the glory when they are all victorious, but Manfred isn't buying it. Still, upon seeing the power of Nagash when he is resurrected, he decides that it is worth following his lead. For the first time in his life, Manfred has met a necromancer that so vastly outclasses him, he knows he has no hope of defeating him. Even though we know Vlad would clap Manfred any day, our egotistical Baldy is still blinded by his arrogance, until he sees the ultimate power that is Nagash at least. Neferata, looking to curry favour with Nagash upon his return, decides to bring him some corpses to bolster his armies. She arrives with the head of King Cazador, saying that she has killed all the dwarves in Carrickazal. Thoric Ironbrow and a small retinue did escape, but Nagash cares little for that. He allows Neferata to join his side, and with his Mortocks convened, Nagash begins to hear word from Ark and the Black that chaos is rising in the north, and that it has already taken Kislev and a good chunk of the Empire. Nagash therefore decides to split his forces. Vlad, Wallach, Harkin and the Nameless will slow down the march of chaos as best they can, while Nagash and the rest will deal with the Tomb Kings who will not kneel, and return him to his Black Pyramid. Before attacking Kemry, Nagash skirts around it, gaining allies in Tomb Kings who wish to serve, and decimating what's left of Araby in order to fill his ranks. In the time he spent doing this though, Cetra the Imperishable has managed to gather his defences. Hearing that her long-time nemesis is by Nagash's side, Khalida of Libaris joins Cetra at the siege of Kemry. The siege is hard fought, and for a while it seems like Cetra simply will not allow Kemry to fall. Like a one-man army, he takes down wave after wave of Nagash's troops, and while they rise again, Cetra never tires. It is only when Manfred devises a new plan that Kemry comes under real threat. While a great army led by Krell attacks from the front, he will sneak in under the cover of darkness and open the gates. Neferata elects to join Manfred on this mission, and they soon find themselves behind enemy lines. Neferata and Khalida come to blows with the Queen of Libaris defeating and destroying Neferata, but that gives Manfred enough time to open the gates. The rest of the battle is desperate, and still it seems for a moment like Cetra will hold, but he eventually is laid low by Nagash after Khalida is defeated as well. Cetra refuses to join Nagash and disappears a moment before he can be obliterated. The Chaos Gods chose to save Cetra and offer him another chance to slay Nagash in return for servitude. Cetra does not serve though, and he denies them too, instead choosing to take his own revenge on Nagash. We'll pick up Cetra again later, but back at Nagash's camp he regrets the death of Neferata, but does not praise Manfred for his plan. Once again the vampire grows to resent Nagash but cannot make any moves against him. Each time anger nearly gets the better of him, Arkan the Black keeps him in line. Soon, the kettle will boil though, and Manfred will not stand Nagash's negligence forever. Once Nagash regains control of the Black Pyramid, and his enemies in the Southlands are defeated or have joined his side, he restores himself to his former powers, eagerly awaiting the day he can challenge and devour the Chaos Gods. He also hears of what's going on in the world. Vlad and Wallach Harkon failed to stop Archaon in Ostland, and the Everchosen has taken Middenheim. Nagash thinks little of this, until he is visited by a worn-out, mournful Teclis, who tells him that the elves are sailing east to face the Everchosen, but even if they unite with the Empire, there's still almost no chance they beat Archaon without Nagash by their side. Nagash refuses to join the Order side, but he does try and force Teclis into being his undead servant. Teclis barely escapes the confrontation with his life, again fearing that he has failed to save the world, as Leleath told him the forces of the dead and the living must unite in order to stop Archaon. Back at Nagash's pyramid, he does grow slightly concerned with this Archaon. If the Everchosen doesn't care for conquering and just wants to blow up the world, then that won't exactly leave a lot of corpses for Nagash to raise as his own. So he decides that he will fly his pyramid to Middenheim, and he will bolster his armies with what's left of the Empire's forces. He contacts Vlad, telling him to turn on Karl Franz and ready his armies. Vlad initially agreed to serve Nagash to see his beloved Isabella return to life, but with each day that has passed, he has realised that that promise was nothing but a lie. Vlad sees no logic in the Empire falling. Even when he wanted to control it, he wouldn't have made it a land of the living dead. He will not bring the Empire low, come what may, when Nagash brings his pyramid to Middenheim. On his journey north, Nagash faces a lot of Skaven. United as they were in our last video, the Ratmen are pouring from the ground in the hundreds of thousands, and while most of these armies are simply added to Nagash's numbers of the dead, the Skaven prove themselves to be more than just a pest. After failing to bring down the pyramid with sheer numbers, Clan Scryer's artillery starts blowing chunks out of it, and while Nagash is busy fighting off Skaven, he doesn't notice two smaller forces making their way onto the pyramid. Settra and Thorek Ironbrow are back. Both of them have nothing to lose, and even though they've not coordinated their attacks, they accidentally end up helping each other out. Settra's goal is simple: kill Nagash, while Thorek has had his Brotherhood of the Anvil bring the Rune of Doom up onto the pyramid. Keeping Nagash busy, Settra puts up a good fight, but he's wounded from the siege of Kemry, whereas Nagash is stronger than ever thanks to the pyramid. At the same time, upon the first clang of the Rune of Doom, Thorek Ironbrow summons ghostly dwarven spirits to wreak havoc on the pyramid, giving him enough time to strike it again. It's worth remembering that the Rune of Doom grounds enemy spells, and so if Thorek puts his hold back into a swing with the hate of an entire hold's worth of dwarves in his heart, I'm willing to say he can bring the pyramid crashing down at the cost of his life. Wounded from the fight with Settra, his pyramid in pieces crashed on its journey to Middenheim, Nagash continues on. He refuses to believe this setback is enough to stop him being capable of taking Archaon down. He still has hundreds of thousands of undead, most of his Mortocks at his side. He has outlasted countless Chosen of Chaos in his time, and this Everchosen is nothing more than a child to him. Nagash arrives at Middenheim as the powers of chaos and death clash. The once great city of Ulrich is reduced to little more than rubble as Nagash and Archaon the Black blast through Norskins and demons alike. Archaon believed he was ready for anything, that through sheer willpower alone he would face the might of every other faction in the old world, but he was not ready for Nagash. For the first time in this version of the End Times, chaos is on the back foot and Nagash pushes forward until he faces Archaon in a duel. Archaon doesn't back down from Nagash, and the two remind their lessers why they have the powers to challenge gods as they meet in battle. Few can even get near them, but even if Archaon can stand alone against Nagash for a time, there's no secret who would have won this duel in the long run. However, Archaon is not alone in this fight. Voltan, the former hero of the Empire, who's still wielding Galmaraz, gives Nagash a reminder of the human who defeated him last. Together, Voltan and Archaon put Nagash on the back foot, but even they still can't bring him down for good. In the end, the deciding factor is yet another traitor. Manfred, after being ignored and cast aside by Nagash multiple times, decides he's willing to take his chances with a new master. Nagash is defeated by Archaon, Manfred and Voltan, but the cost is incredibly great. Middenheim is no longer defensible, and as the other side of dwarves, elves and men readies itself for battle once more, it seems the Everchosen is heading for defeat. I think it's probably best to take a pause here. Nagash being resurrected just to get defeated again? I know, it doesn't sound good on paper, and I racked my head thinking of another way this could be done, but to avoid him just having joined the Order tide and to make Chaos once again our ultimate threat, I think Nagash has to go. I've never said that this End Times needs to lead to Age of Sigmar, and so we don't need to worry about the future as we write this. Also, I think in this way, we see how Archaon and Chaos being united shows why it's stronger than ever. At Middenheim, the Empire's leadership was divided. Some wanted to go with Franz, others followed Voltan, and the city fell because of that. At the second siege, again Nagash hasn't taken care of business at home, and so he allowed hostilities to fester from his underlings, leading to Manfred's betrayal and his downfall once more. If that still doesn't sit right with you, be sure to let me know, but otherwise from here we move on with what's left of the Undead. Vlad and Archaon the Black make it out of Middenheim, and after seeing their master fall, they have two choices: either fall with him, or turn to the Empire, hoping that they can stop the world from being destroyed and then raise Nagash once more to fight for what's left of it. Kneeling before Archaon, Manfred dedicates himself to chaos. He is given more powers for this, and Archaon orders him to go to Sylvania. They have won a great victory this day, but they can no longer hold Middenheim. The elves are landing, the dwarves are on their way, and the Empire is recuperating its losses. The third attack on the city is barely a battle at all, as Archaon finds himself immediately retreating. He sends contingents of beastmen into the forests as he falls further back, all the way to Nordland, allowing the Ordertide to think they have won. Just as they think they have Archaon cornered though, pockets of his army around the Empire strike. The beastmen run wild in their thousands, pillaging whatever they can, while the dead march on the moot and Aberheim with Chaos Dwarfs at their back. Still, this isn't enough to dissuade Karl Franz from an all-out assault, which takes place around Nordheim. And as the battle begins though, both Chaos and Order hear an unfamiliar warhorn blare from a nearby hill, and a great green tide led by none other than Grimgor Ironhide follows. The Orcs have joined the final war for the Old World. And that's where we'll leave it today, my friends. Another rewrite in the books. I'll say we are ramping up towards the finish line now, as I can only really see a few videos needing to be done. There's going to be a lot more crossover as well, as everyone is sort of going to be in the same mix going forward, so forgive me if future videos don't focus on a singular faction as much as they could do. Either way, as always, let me know what you think, and I'll hit you with the next one soon.